It all began on a chilly Wednesday morning in late fall. The sky was overcast, and the maple trees in the front yard had shed most of their amber leaves, leaving the lawn in a fiery mosaic. I stood by the window, sipping coffee from my favorite blue mug, the one with a small chip on the rim that no one else liked to use. My name is Claire Matthews, and until a few years ago, I never imagined I'd be anyone's stepmother, much less caught in a strange emotional whirlwind with a teenage boy trying to figure himself and his world out. When I married Michael, I knew he came with a 13-year-old son, Aiden. I had no illusions about the adjustment it would require. Aiden had lost his mother at a very young age, and although his father tried his best to be present, Michael's job in corporate finance kept him away more than it should. I took on the day-to-day tasks. School runs, lunches, homework help, the occasional football game on the weekends. Over time, I became a maternal figure by default. But being a stepmother is different. You're a parent, but not quite. You're trusted, but only up to a point. The first year with Aiden was rocky. He had his boundaries, and I had mine. I was cautious not to impose too much, but I always made sure he knew I was there for him. It wasn't until he turned 15 that I began to notice small changes. He had grown taller, now nearly eye level with me, and his voice had dropped a few octaves. His personality was evolving. He was less sarcastic and more introspective. He'd watch me sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking. At first, I assumed it was teenage awkwardness. Maybe he was just processing the strange family dynamic we all found ourselves in. One afternoon, Michael was away on another work trip, and I had just come back from grocery shopping. I called out Aiden's name, asking for help with the bags. He didn't answer. I left the groceries on the counter and walked down the hallway toward his room. His door was slightly ajar, and I heard him mutter something. I paused, unsure whether to knock or just walk in. Before I could make a decision, he called out to me. "You can come in, Claire." His room was unusually tidy that day. Aiden sat at his desk, sketching something in a notebook. I had no idea he liked to draw. The walls were still decorated with posters of basketball players and a few rock bands I didn't recognize, but there was a quiet calmness in his posture. He didn't look up right away. "Thanks for the help," I said, trying to sound casual. "I could use your muscles with the water jugs." He finally looked up and smiled a little. "Sure. I'll be there in a minute." But as I turned to leave, I felt his eyes linger a bit longer than usual. Not in a way that made me uncomfortable, more like he was trying to understand something about me. Or maybe test something. It wasn't until that evening that I realized this might be the beginning of a shift in our relationship. The tests became more frequent. Not direct, not confrontational, subtle things. He would ask me curious questions, not inappropriate, but oddly personal. "Do you ever miss your old life before us? What was high school like for you? Were you popular? Do you think people ever marry for comfort instead of love?" I tried to answer as honestly as possible without reading too much into it. I knew he was growing up and probably had questions about the world and the people around him. Maybe he just needed someone who'd really listen. One night, while we were watching a movie in the living room, Michael was again out of town. Aiden sat closer than usual. Not too close, but close enough to notice. His shoulder brushed mine when he reached for the popcorn. I didn't pull away, but I did stiffen slightly. He noticed. "Sorry," he said quickly, retreating to his side of the couch. "No, it's okay," I replied, offering a smile. "It's just popcorn." He chuckled, and the tension eased. I knew I had a responsibility, not just to him but to myself, to draw healthy boundaries. But I also understood that this boy, who had gone through so much loss and change, might just be searching for connection in the only way he knew how. I couldn't punish him for that. I could guide him. Be firm, but kind. The next day, I decided to engage him more, show him that he didn't need to test me or seek hidden signs of affection. I could offer him emotional clarity and stability. At dinner, I asked him about his drawings. His face lit up. "You saw those," he said, a little embarrassed. "Yeah, they're good. Really good, actually. You've got talent." He shrugged, but I could tell the compliment meant something. "I just do it when I'm bored." "You ever think of taking a class? Maybe over the summer?" He looked surprised, as if the idea had never crossed his mind. Maybe. I gave him more attention, more engagement, more praise where it was due. I supported his creative side, helped him with applications when he wanted to enter a local art contest, and stood by his side when he won second place. I was there when he got a B- in math and sulked about it for days. I helped him talk to a girl he liked from his chemistry class. Slowly, the energy between us shifted from tension to trust. Michael eventually noticed. You two seem to be getting along better these days. I smiled. He's growing up. We're learning each other. Michael nodded, clearly relieved. He'd always worried about how Aiden would adapt to me. We never forced our bond. We just let it form on its own. One evening, about a year after I first noticed Aiden's subtle tests, we sat in the kitchen eating leftover lasagna. He was 17 now, taller than his dad, and far more mature than most his age. He looked at me, not with confusion or caution, but with clear understanding. Thanks, Claire, he said out of nowhere. For what? For sticking with me. For not shutting down when I was, kind of weird. I laughed gently. You were never weird. Just curious. And being curious isn't a bad thing. He nodded, taking another bite. It's just, I didn't know how to talk to you at first. I wasn't sure if you were for real. I placed my hand on the table, palm up. He hesitated, then rested his hand in mine for a brief moment. I'm always here, I told him. No tests needed. That moment stayed with me. It was quiet, but powerful. A sign that we had finally crossed that invisible bridge. Years later, after he went off to college and came back for the holidays, we laughed about those early days. You were testing me, I reminded him once, during a late-night kitchen chat. He grinned. I know. And you passed. Looking back, I realized something important. Relationships, especially unconventional ones like ours, don't thrive on obligation. They grow from patience, honesty, and emotional generosity. Aiden didn't need a second mom. He needed someone who saw him clearly and chose to stay anyway. And in the end, I'm glad I gave him more grace, more space, more love.